What is the ideal person? That is a question that has been asked as long as man has had the ability to think of such concepts, having many answers to it throughout the ages, some good, some bad, and I will give my personal answer to that question here and now. Virtue, a thing all but extinct in modern society, as it's like water and oil. Even if so, it's a thing looked positively on by many, and way more so in the past, with good reasons, as it's hard to believe something such as giving to the poor, being kind, protecting those weaker than oneself, or helping others is a bad thing. But in the modern world, those things are not seen as something being part of the definition of the word virtuous, as if having forgotten its meaning, believing it to only be things such as practicing abstinence from alcohol, celibacy, contempt with simplicity, and righteousness, where its actual definition and meaning being only but a synonym for a good personality trait. The shifting of the meaning of the word has shifted such that what now is called virtue is what would earlier have been called higher virtue, which because of that I prefer to use greater virtue or greater piety for what was the earlier definition. But this greater virtue or good personality traits in all aspects of the personhood is a crucial part of what is needed to make the ideal person. The ideal person must be rich in virtue and in virtuousness. An ideal person must have the virtue of righteousness, the virtue of abstinence, the virtue of loyalty, the virtue of giving, the virtue of kindness, the virtue of discipline, and many, many more, because, of course, ideal isn't an easy thing to reach, and virtue is probably the hardest thing of trying to become an ideal person, but also the most important. For what is a generous person who doesn't give, a truthful individual who lies constantly, a brave person who cowers from going to battle, a patient person who can't wait? They are all but falsehoods. The ideal person is one who has all the greatest of traits, someone who has beat the odds and become good in many aspects most don't even think about, one who doesn't accept mediocrity in themselves. They are someone with great moral integrity and knows right from wrong, and will fight for what is right, a righteous swordsman, not afraid to swing when needed, an extremely virtuous person. Betterment or self-betterment is also in many ways a thing of greater virtue and virtuous. To better yourself and try having a better, kinder personality is objectively good, and to strive to be an ideal person is also a thing such a person must try to, even if they're already a very good, kind person. They must always try and strive higher and better, even if it looks like they can't get any further, as trying to increase greatness, better what is great, aggrandize greatness is a Shah of virtue. Being piously devoted to increasing all good and positive more and more. Having a mindset such as this is extremely important to achieve the status of idealness. There can always be greater, but instead of being discouraged by that, see it as a green light to continue onwards, to better, forever. Wisdom and knowledge. Things I of course have plenty of because I'm so smart and cool, and I'm always right. That's why you should subscribe. Well, enough with the joking. You should subscribe though. Wisdom and knowledge. Things only few really have, despite almost all people trying to act like they know way more in all subjects than what they do in reality. Everyone has once had someone else argue with them about a subject that they know they have vastly more knowledge in than the someone else that they are arguing with, yet the other acts like they have an equal level of knowledge, even if that other is a person known to them and knows that they are knowledgeable in the subject in question. And in this modern world, the only way of getting around such fruitless and idiotic discussion is to either speak to a reasonable person that understands that they're dwarfed in knowledge of the subject by the other person, even if they don't believe in what they are saying, or to say that you have some sort of degree in it. In the modern day, people are too arrogant to say, I don't know. And that is where the start of the ideal person in terms of wisdom is, to admit when something is out of their knowledge. The ideal person is a learned person who enjoys enlarging their knowledge in all sorts of different subjects, some being their crown jewels of intellect, subjects they can have hours worth of conversations in, discussing all the ins and outs of whatever it might be, subjects they have great passion in, learning even more about it, even though they are already at the height of knowledge as that of an expert, and also tons of other subjects that they have less knowledge in, despite being at a higher level than that of an average person in it, having them as small hobbies to sit down and learn about every once in a while. The ideal person is one who has a love of knowledge and wants to know as much as possible, just as always striving for better good and greater grades, always striving for higher knowledge and greater wisdom. Getting more knowledge and learning about things is also a form of betterment. For that, the ideal person must always try and better their knowledge. They must also be someone who takes great pride in their own intellect and wisdom, being happy to tell about various insights to the topic at hand, virtuous and helpful to always give information to another that needs it or interested in searching along for that information with them. Beauty, something everyone loves and wants to see more of. I especially so. I value beauty extremely highly, but all my thoughts on the importance of beauty will be for another video in the future. The ideal person should try and become the most beautiful they possibly can, even if they've been dealt a bad hand by genetics and their own bodies change. It should not block them. Just like I said earlier when talking about betterment, just because it looks like an end and impossible to go any further, don't stop. Continue steadfast in reaching higher heights, greater good, or in this case, beautiful beautifuls. By many means. Going to the gym, training, getting a new haircut, growing a beard, using makeup, and whatever else girls use to get good looking. I don't really know. I don't find much interest in women's beauty tutorials, so I don't really know what they do other than makeup. But whatever that is, put it here. But by all of those means, it's possible to look better, and even for an unblessed person, aesthetically. And the ideal person would do so, becoming beautiful as can be for them. Skill or to be skilled, the crucial tool that great accomplishments are built with, and something needed to reach the other things on this list, as this is something needed to create great things, and being the ideal person is a great accomplishment. One who is an ideal person must have an abundance of skill in their hands, capable of being used for great works, works of the mind and works of the hands, being able to bring into being big monuments through their own talent and skill. The foundation of skill is what the ideal person used to get to their status of ideal, and the foundation they shall use for more and better in the future, a future created for the good of all, because of the virtuous nature of the ideal person. As you probably have already noticed by now, all of these things have some ties to one and the other, as good things share with other good things. Skill shares elements with virtue, wisdom shares elements with virtue, betterment shares elements with beauty, and such with the unnamed combinations. And if a person wants to become the ideal person, they will have to grow all of the parts at the same time. But skill is the thing you need to start doing so. This video has mostly been about what is the ideal person, but with a probably noticeable undertone of trying to promote the idea of attempting to push oneself to try their best to become this ideal person, or at least become closer to it. I don't really think I need to argue why everyone should try their best to become better, because it's pretty clear why, and I want to give a more clear image of it because In these days, becoming better has almost only turned into promoting physical well-looking, and not the other things, which also needs to be promoted, as if everyone tries their best to become better, then that will make the entire world better.